Today we're covering the second and the third part of the lesson. We're going to be covering modern Central America, life in modern Central America. We said that as we covered the history lesson, Central America is similar to Mexico. So you'll find also that life in Central America a little bit similar to Mexico, especially that Central America actually has fewer resources than Mexico and has a lot of political problems that they need to deal with. Let's start by reading the first part to find out about life there. Ritesh, please read Central America's economies.
Okay, Miss. Modern Central America. The nations of Central America have fewer resources than Mexico. The region must also deal with political problems. Central America's economies. The countries of Central America long showed dependence or too much reliance on cash crops. In recent years, some have been to escape this trap. A good sign is the growth of manufacturing. This consists mostly of food processing and production of clothing and textiles. Tourism has grown as well. Tourists come to Belize and Guatemala to see ancient Maya sites. They travel to Costa Rica to see the varied plants and animals in the rainforests. Panama benefits economically from the Panama Canal. Working for additional benefit, Panama initiated a major building program to expand the canal so it can accept larger cargo ships. High rates of population growth create an economic challenge. The countries need to grow their economies faster to provide enough jobs. One hope for promoting growth is trade agreements between the countries of the region and other countries. In the 2000, the United States and the Dominican Republic signed a series of agreements with 5 Central American countries: Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. The agreement, called the Central America Free Trade Agreement, CAFTA-DOR, was the first agreement among the United States and smaller developing economies. CAFTA-DOR creates a free trade zone that lowers trade barriers between the countries. Often, however, such trade agreements help the United States more than the other countries. Miss, I continue?
No, that's it. I'm going to start asking questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Ritesh. So we're starting with what does it mean, the word dependence? And how does Central America have dependence economy? Bamika, tell me what's the definition of the word dependence?
What you said, I cannot hear the internet as well.
Again, what's the meaning of the word dependence?
It means too much reliance on cash crops, depending
In
on cash
general,
crops.
it's too much reliance over one source of one resource of the country, whatever. But here the case in Central America, they are depending on one source. What is it? It's the cash crop. They were trying recent years to escape this trap. How did they escape this trap? Hannah Haney,
Yes.
how did
Um,
Central America escape this trap, relying on one resource?
they made manufacturing. They manufactured the cash crop.
Yes. Which is a good sign of growth. They have developed the manufacturing, which consists of food processing and production of clothing and textile. So this was one way to escape this trap, which is depending on cash crops. The second way or the second economic activity, Uta?
Tourism. Tourism has grown.
Yes.
People went to see the ancient Maya
Yes.
civilization.
They came to see the ancient Maya civilization site and to travel to Costa Rica as it has a variety of animals in the rainforests and nice beaches. So these were the two signs of growth in the economy. Also, Panama. Panama has the Panama Canal, which has benefited from it. How? Who can tell me how did Panama benefit from its resources? فرح محلب.
It accepted larger cargo ships and so that was the additional benefit.
Yes, the additional benefit was to benefit from working or to expand the canal in order to accept larger cargo ships. Okay, let's move to these were the three ways how did they improve their economy or how did they try to escape the trap of depending on only one resource. Let's move on to the high rates of population growth. What it has actually created an economic challenge. What kind of a challenge did the high rate of population has created? Who can tell me? Dobolina?
The countries need to grow their economies fast to provide enough jobs.
Yes, they need to provide more jobs. And the other one was the international agreements between other countries.
Agreement.
Yes. Who can tell me what kind of agreements? What is it and what does it entail? Adham,
Yes, miss.
tell me about the agreements that the country did.
Okay. The United States and the Dominican Republic, they signed some agreements with the 5 countries from Central America, which are Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And one of them is called the Central America Free Trade Agreement.
Okay.
And it was the first agreement between the United States and the countries that have smaller economy or developing economies. This agreement creates a free trade zone which lowers the trade barriers between these countries.
Okay.
But sometimes some of these agreements that they have signed benefit the United States more than the other countries.
So one of the most important agreements that was sent or was done in Central America, American countries, which are Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, was the SAFTA Deer Agreement, which was the first agreement among the United States and the smaller developing economies, which is called Free Trade Zone. Actually, it gives them the right to lower trade barriers between the countries, but such trade agreements help the United States more than other countries. And this is the only disadvantage that it has. Let's talk about the challenges that are facing the region. Okay, Ahmed Hussein. Ahmed Hussein,
Yes, miss.
read please challenges facing the region.
Another challenge to the area is natural disasters, earthquakes, and hurricanes can have a devastating effect on the region's fragile economies. Niagara was making some economic progress in the 1990s when Hurricane Mitch hit. The destruction set the national economy back significantly. The need to solve long-standing political problems also holds the region back. The civil wars of the 1980 and 1990 are over, but some of the issues that caused them remain unsolved. If these issues again become more severe, conflict may resume.
Okay, so we have other challenges that are facing that nation. Who can tell me what kind of challenges are facing the nation? Laura, tell me one of the challenges.
They are the natural disasters.
Yes, natural disasters such as earthquakes and hurricanes, which are devastating and actually have an effect on the region's fragile economy. This is number one. Number two, Develina.
Long-term improvement
the long-standing political problems, which are represented in the civil wars. These are two of the most important challenges that are facing the region. Let's talk about the culture. Abdurrahman Khalid, read.
Yeah, okay, miss. From which part?
From the part we stopped at.
Which is exactly which line?
Which paragraph we stopped at, ya Abdurrahman? You weren't following?
I was just getting something from outside.
Can please take a permission so I make sure that you're following. We are starting now culture. Go ahead.
Okay. The culture of Central America is strongly influenced by European and native traditions. Spanish is the chief language in all countries except Belize, where English is the official language. English is spoken in many cities in the region as well. In rural Guatemala, native languages are common. The population is mainly of mixed European and native heritage. Some people of African and Asian descent live there as well. Most people of the region are Roman Catholics. In recent years, however, Protestant faiths have gained followers.
Okay, so who can explain what kind of culture is there in the area? Let me choose someone. Okay, Hannah Yasser.
Yes, miss. First of all, it says like it's a strongly has influence from European countries and native and its native traditions. For example, like the Spanish. The Spanish is like the most common language there, except in Belize, and also English is an official language as well, and it is spoken in many cities such as in also regions as well. But in Guatemala, native language are also common due to their from many year for has been has been common for many years, and to keep the traditions they keep speaking it. To uphold their traditions. Also, its population is mainly Europeans and and native heritage. Also, some people from African Asia live there as well, and but most people in the region are follow the Roman Catholic religion. But uh, uh, in the recent years, Protestants also have gained as many followers.
Thank you very much, Johanna, for the nice explanation.
You're welcome.
So let's move on to the next part. If we finished Central America, we can move to the Caribbean islands.
Sally,
Yes?
Miss, I don't understand the agreement.
Sorry?
The agreement that they had.
The agreements? Okay, I already explained it. Central America is not a very rich country in resources, all right? So they need to work on their economy in order to find other ways to improve their way of economy. First of all, the problem that they were depending on one resource, which is the cash crops. It wasn't enough. So they made many procedures, including the agreement. What kind of an agreement? They did an agreement between United States and especially the Dominican Republic. The agreement had all the 5 countries of Central America: Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. We called it SAFTA. What does it mean? The first agreement. It means that it creates a free zone trade. What's a free zone trade? When we are exchanging goods, you will not put extra money for the customs. You know that if you are getting something from abroad, you pay for it and you pay for customs, right? You know this? You pay extra money for transportation and customs. No, if we have an agreement with another country, it lowers the barriers between the country. It means that you only pay for the goods. You don't pay extra money for customs or a charge for anything else. So this make economy a little bit fresh, and it helps people to find jobs, and it helps people at the same time to buy goods with low prices. So after all, it will help the economy. Okay.
They
Is that
made they
understood?
made the agreement to improve the growth of what?
Sorry, improve what?
They made the agreement to for what?
In order to lower the barrier, trade barriers. What trade barriers? I told you the extra money that we pay when we are getting anything from abroad, from outside the country.
Okay.
For example, يا Laura, if you are getting مثلا something from United States and we are here in Egypt, okay? You pay extra money, right? For transportation and for customs. Do you know this? Have you ever tried to get something from outside?
No.
No. Anyway, if we are getting anything from outside the country, you don't just pay the money for it. You pay extra money for something called customs. The customs here in Egypt take extra money in order to take, in order for you to order from outside the country. So, for example, if you're buying a shoes and the shoes will cost you 500, you pay 500 for the shoes, 200 customs, and like 100 taxes. No, we are having this agreement in order to make sure that you only pay the 500 only. You don't pay
Okay.
customs. And this agreement allow you to do this among only the countries that signed the agreement, not any country. So how this will help the economy? If I buy something cheap, it will help us to have enough money to develop our economy.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Welcome. Most welcome. So let's complete the rest of the lesson. Anyone want to ask any question before I move on to the Caribbean islands? All right. Before I move, the Caribbean islands, I told you before that they are islands with small countries, small population, or bigger islands with big population, and of course it have a diverse culture. Hannah Hani, would you please read the islands' economies?
Yes, miss. The Caribbean islands. The Caribbean islands are mostly small countries with small population and few resources. Although they have a rich and vibrant culture, they face many challenges. Island economies. The biggest challenge for the islands is to develop economically. Many people on the island are poor. Even in Puerto Rico, a large share of the population lives in poverty. One reason for the poverty is high unemployment. Cuba's economy is in poor condition after decades of communism. The government has been unable to promote economic development. It relied on aid first from the Soviet Union and more recently from Venezuela. Conditions are worse now than in the 1980s. Cubans also have little political freedom. These who criticize the government are often arrested. In Haiti, a history of poor political leadership has held back economic development. Haiti ranks among the world's poorest nations. Poverty is not the country's only problem. Widespread disease is another threat. In addition, as many as 1 in 8 Haitians have left the country. Many of those who immigrated were among Haiti's most educated people. This loss hurts efforts to improve the economy. Finally, the economy has not yet recovered from a deadly 2010 earthquake. Despite these problems, Haiti's people are determined to succeed. Trinidad and Tobago has one of the more successful economies in the region. Sales of its oil and natural gas have funded economic development. Its location near Venezuela and Brazil has helped.
Complete, يا هنا.
Okay. Its location near Venezuela and Brazil has helped make its ports busy. The smaller Caribbean islands have had more political success than the larger ones. Governments are democratic and stable, but the economies are plagued by resources and poverty.
All right, يا هنا, please stop. I
And-
will explain this
Okay.
part, then we can continue reading. Let's start from the beginning. The islands' economies. He's here explaining what kind of economy would the islands have. We said that the biggest challenge for people in the highland or for people who are living in Mexico, Central America, that their economy, is very poor. Why? People are living in poverty because they have unemployment, they don't have enough resources. And he's given us examples for this. Number one example, Cuba. Cuba economy is in a poor condition. The government is unable to promote economic development. They are only relying on the first aid that come from the Soviet Union and also from Venezuela. So people are depending on what comes to them from other countries and they don't have resources to depend on. They are very, very poor. Okay, conditions are worse now. Cubans have little political freedom. This is number two. And those who criticize the government are often arrested. يبقى who can describe to me the situation in Cuba? What's the situation like in Cuba? How is the economy in Cuba? Who can tell me? Let me كده see. Krish? Krish?
Yes.
Yes, please describe the economic situation in Cuba.
Okay. It's Cuba economy is poor. It has a lot of poor conditions and decades of communism. And the government hasn't been able to promote economic development. And it also relied on its aid from first Soviet Union and more recently from Venezuela. Should I continue more or?
Yes, these are the most important 2 points actually. Give me 1 minute. Yes. Number one, we said that they are very poor and they are relying on the Soviet Union. Number two, they don't have political freedom and whoever criticizes the government will get arrested. This is a situation in Cuba. What about Haiti? Haiti actually has also a history of political leadership that held them back from the economic development. How? They are the poorest nation they are ranked among the poorest nation. And it's not the only problem is poverty. No, number two, they have widespread disease. This is number two. And actually, 1 in 8 Haitians have left the country, and many of them have emigrated to outside countries. This is number three. And number four, they were suffering from earthquakes or deadly earthquakes. So how did Haiti receive poor economy, or how did Haiti suffer? Actually, they are suffering because of four main points. Number one, they are very poor or ranked among the poorest countries. Number two, they are suffering from political freedom. They have widespread diseases. Many people of them, especially the young one, immigrated from the country. And finally, they have suffered from earthquakes. Who can tell me what kind of problems does Haiti suffer from? Okay, Farah, go ahead.
They are very poor. They have many diseases. They
Mhm.
suffer from earthquakes and critical freedom.
Yes, and widespread for diseases. Thank you. Let's move to Trinidad and Tobago, which have a little bit more successful economy in the nation because they have like wide sales in oil and natural gas, and they have funded economic developments, especially near Venezuela and Brazil, which makes their ports a little bit busy. So they have their own sales in natural gas and oil. They are keeping their ports busy. And at the same time, they have a little bit stable government, which help them a little bit, but they still have the same two problems, which is few resources and poverty. Okay, this is for Trinidad and Tobago. We've stopped at the word poverty. The session actually has only 5 minutes to end. Let's take a break and then join in the next session. We're going to complete the lesson in the next session. Anyone want to ask anything about the last part before we end the session? No one has questions? Okay, the session will end now. We're going to continue next session, inshallah.